Hello there, viewers, and hello, Rabbi. Today's episode is going to be a follow-up on our recent episode on President Trump's plans for the Gaza Strip. Take it away, Rabbi.
In our episode 3 weeks ago, many viewers made suggestions for passages in the Quran that I should read. And I'm live on TikTok every Wednesday night at 8, and many people recommended I read these same passages. So I figured I'll read these passages. I have a question, though, for you watching, listening. Do you want me to tell people that the Quran promotes hate, enmity, and violence? Or do you want me to use my social media to tell everyone that Islam isn't the enemy, that Islam, the Quran, and Muhammad, they preach peace, moderation, reconciliation, and tolerance? What do you want to leave me with?
But we're not suggesting that you're not suggesting that the viewers tell you what you should say.
You can always email me, rabbiblock@hotmail.com. You don't have to post anything anywhere else and make suggestions or quote passages. I'll take them under advisement. I really look for material.
Have you revised your opinion on President Trump's strategy?
President Trump's strategy is beyond left field. It is ridiculous, and he's trying to use blackmail and coercion, and that never has worked. Really requires cooperation. And as I mentioned last time, the solution is to separate religious beliefs, with Islam and Judaism being brother religions, from political ideology, from using either Judaism or the teachings to favor or promote a bad, hateful solution to the problem. So these are the passages that you asked me to read. In the Prophet Muhammad's last address, it's called the Farewell Sermon, he said, I leave behind two things, the Quran and the Sunnah. And if you follow both, you'll never go astray. Well, as is in the case of Judaism and in Islam, this straightforward message becomes complicated by rabbinic commentary or tafsir, Quranic exegesis, if you will. Other people telling us what it says in the Talmud, other people telling us what the Quran actually says. And so I decided to look at the passages. One of the comments quoted that the Quran describes Jews as pigs and apes, and it cited two verses from Surat al-Ma'idah, chapter 5, verse 60, in which God punished Sabbath breakers by turning them into pigs and apes. But when you read these passages more carefully and you sit with them, you realize that the punishment was reserved only for those individual transgressors, not for the entire Jewish people. And that's what I meant when I said there are people trying to explain to fulfill a political need or an ideology. The text itself is directed at those two individuals. Contrary to popular misconception, the Quran does not describe Jews as pigs and apes. Similarly, a widely quoted hadith reads, a Jew serving the Prophet got sick. The Prophet went to visit him and urged him, become a Muslim. The Jew looked at his father, who instructed him, obey the Prophet. The Jew became a Muslim, and the Prophet left saying, thank God who saved him from hell. Now, some write commentary and have concluded that Jews are destined to go to hell. And again, this isn't unique to commentators on the Quran or on the Hadith. My fellow rabbis do this all the time. But the Quran makes no mention of the fate for all Jews. This was a story, just pointing something out, not extrapolating it for the universe. Now we have another hadith. concerning Jews. The day of judgment will not arrive until Muslims fight the Jews, and the Muslims will kill them. Even if a Jew hides behind a rock or a tree, the rock or the tree will say, "O Muslim, O worshipper of God, there is a Jew behind me. Come and kill him." Except the salt bush, for it is one of the Jews' trees. Taking this hadith and comparing it to a slew of verses in the Quran. That's not what the Quran teaches. I'm not here to explain to you how the hadith came into being or the context in which it was said, but I can say to you that when there is something that directly contradicts a Quranic verse, the Quranic verse takes precedence over the hadith when there are textual ambiguities or conflicting content. Where did I get that from? Many of the websites that teach about the Quran and about the order and about Islam. And so for those of you using this kill Jews to justify fighting against the state of Israel, I'm asking my question again. Would you rather that I use the quotes from the Quran that talk about us being brothers, the quotes I used last week, or would you rather I use this? The Quran explicitly asserts in Surat al-Hajj, God will judge between you on the day of judgment concerning the matters in which you differ. Commanding that only God can be the final arbiter on matters of ultimate truth. And many times in our Talmud, when there's discussion, the rabbis will say, we're disagreeing. God will make the decision at the end of days. Very similar to that idea concerning matters in which you differ, God will be the final arbiter. Moreover, the Quran contains many verses that describe Jews favorably, none of which instruct Muslims to fight them. Surat al-Baqarah contains the same verse twice. Children of Israel, remember the blessing I have bestowed upon you, and that I have exalted you above the nations. Put your politics aside. We're talking Jew, Muslim, Quran, Torah. We're talking about how you want me to present you. Did Islam then come to negate the Old and the New Testaments, or to confirm or corroborate with them? Now, the Quran offers many examples of respect for Christians and Jewish scripture. It often emphasized our shared values. Its further demonstration in the Constitution of Medina, a pact signed by the Jews of Medina and the Prophet when he emigrated there in 622. This legislation united the two communities and accepted the differences between the two religions. Let's go back to that document and not the website for Hamas or Hezbollah or their pronouncements or their parading people on television or beheading people. Let's not use that. And I don't understand why you want to refer me to those passages when we have these passages. Does Islam offer Jews a broad scope of religious freedoms and protections? A minority rights considered a high religious and moral obligation? In one hadith, the Prophet has warned, beware, whoever is cruel and hard on a non-Muslim minority, or curtails their rights, or burdens them with more than they can bear, or takes anything from them against their free will, I will complain against that person on the day of judgment. The Quran urges Muslims to invite non-Muslims in a respectful and gentle dialogue. And that's what I would like to do, a respectful, gentle dialogue with wisdom, beautiful preaching. I would like to use that rather than people spewing hate and throwing what's going on ideologically, politically, not religiously. In Surat al-Kafiran, Muhammad instructs Muslims to say, "For you is your religion, and for me is my religion." And say, "The truth is from your Lord, so whoever wills it, let him believe, and whoever wills it, let them disbelieve." Mutual respect of both our religions. This, then, is how we will have a Palestine and an Israel safe for both Muslims and Jews.
You can do a literal interpretation, or you can do an interpretation based on what we hope the lessons we're trying to teach. And you see what you want to see. I don't see God casting lightning bolts or killing people or punishing people. I see a hope for peace and understanding. But thank you for taking care of our little corner of the world, Rabbi. Your kindness and intelligence and research. Boy, you did a lot of reading in the last week, has really shown us a lot about what we have to think about. Thank you as always.
And I am going to continue on TikTok Live Wednesday nights at 8 and on the YouTube channel and on the podcast. I'm going to continue to teach that Islam, the Quran, the Hadith does not talk about death and destruction, but rather wants us to have a gentle, meaningful, beautiful dialogue which respects each other. In the end, if we do that, we will have a Palestine and an Israel.